Look at almost any prosperous country today, and the middle class still appears to be there. But its foundations are quietly giving way. For decades, a regular paycheck was supposed to cover a home, food, healthcare, education, and some savings. Now those costs outrun it. That makes the past look almost mythical. One job, one modest house, one family car, and a future that felt broadly predictable. That promise grew strongest when millions of workers entered factories, offices, and public services that offered steady pay and long-term benefits. But the middle class was never just an income bracket. It was a promise that ordinary work could buy stability, security, and progress. So where did it go? Not in one crash, and not because millions suddenly became poor. It eroded piece by piece. After the Second World War, expanding industries, rising wages, and mass home building created a broad consumer class across much of the West. Governments also built roads, expanded universities, supported mortgages, and strengthened labor protections. Prosperity was not automatic, it was organized. For many households, a single full-time income could support children, transportation, housing, and a modest vacation without constant financial improvisation. The result was a society shaped less like a pyramid and more like a diamond, with a wide, confident center. Each generation expected to climb: better wages, a larger home, more education, and greater security than the generation before it. Then, beginning in the late 20th century, that ladder stopped working evenly. Growth continued, but its rewards began flowing elsewhere. Workers became more productive, technology improved, and companies produced more value. Yet typical wages often failed to keep pace. It was like running faster on a treadmill that powered an increasingly wealthy economy, while the runner stayed in exactly the same place. Executive compensation and asset values accelerated upward. For ordinary employees, raises became smaller, benefits weaker, and employment less secure. Companies could report record profits, while many workers saw only minor changes in take-home pay after rent, insurance, and taxes. At the same time, stable manufacturing jobs were replaced by a mix of retail, logistics, contract work, and lower-paid services. The calendar kept moving, but the paycheck felt frozen. Every year, another essential expense demanded a larger share of the same income. Housing became the clearest example. In many successful cities, home prices rose far faster than the earnings of people living there. Apartments climbed upward, but affordability moved in the opposite direction. Renters spent more and gained no ownership stake in return. Saving for a down payment became a race against a moving target. The house appreciated faster than the future buyer could save. High-paying jobs clustered in expensive metropolitan areas, pushing workers farther outward and turning affordability into longer, costlier commutes. Healthcare created another vulnerability. A serious illness could drain savings that had taken years to build, even for employed families. Education was supposed to unlock the middle class. Increasingly, it also arrived with debt that delayed the very milestones it promised. Even when buyers reached the market, higher prices and borrowing costs could transform an ordinary home into a decades-long financial constraint. Childcare costs turned a basic family decision into a spreadsheet, forcing parents to compare one salary against the price of working. Housing, education, healthcare, and childcare are not luxury upgrades. They are the machinery of a middle-class life, and each became more expensive. So households began juggling. They cut vacations, postponed repairs, carried balances, and treated savings as whatever survived at the end. Then the second income stopped being an advantage and became a requirement. Two workers were needed to maintain what one once supported. Globalization also reshaped the map. Companies could move production across borders, seeking cheaper labor and larger margins with unprecedented speed. Factories closed, but they did not simply become new factories nearby. They often became offices, warehouses, or jobs with different pay and power. The damage concentrated geographically. A prosperous national economy could coexist with towns where storefronts emptied and opportunity quietly moved away. Automation added another layer. Machines replaced repetitive labor, while software began absorbing administrative tasks once considered safely middle class. Meanwhile, app-based work offered flexibility but shifted fuel costs, equipment, downtime, and risk from companies onto individual workers. One stable job with a career ladder was increasingly replaced by several fragmented roles, each temporary, measurable, and easy to cancel. Workers also lost bargaining power. As unions weakened, employees had less ability to turn productivity gains into wages, benefits, or predictable schedules. Policy choices mattered too. Tax systems, housing rules, healthcare structures, and labor laws determined who captured growth and who absorbed risk. That difference compounded. When stocks and property rose, asset owners became wealthier, while non-owners faced higher barriers to buying in. More corporate income flowed toward shareholders, buybacks, and executive rewards, while wages became something companies were constantly pressured to contain. Many rules increasingly favored owners of companies, property, and financial assets over people whose main asset was their labor. Inflation did not create every problem, but it exposed how fragile many households had become once essentials rose faster than their buffers. Traditional pensions faded, replaced by retirement accounts tied to individual contributions and market performance. Security became another personal investment decision. Credit filled the gap. Loans, cards, and installment plans allowed families to preserve the appearance of stability while weakening it underneath. That is why one layoff, illness, divorce, or major repair can trigger a chain reaction far larger than the original emergency. The modern middle-class household can look comfortable from outside, while paddling constantly through rent, subscriptions, insurance, debt, and unpredictable expenses. Many families have assets, but little accessible cash. Their safety cushion may be only a thin layer above missed payments. Older workers delay retirement because their savings feel insufficient, their housing costs remain high, or their children still need support. The social diamond narrows into an hourglass, a prosperous upper tier, an insecure lower tier, and fewer households feeling safely between them. And younger adults feel the pressure earlier, surrounded by expectations they inherited, but economic conditions that no longer support them. At the top, wealth compounds through ownership. Homes, stocks, businesses, and tax advantages generate returns that wages alone rarely match. Asset owners ride the escalator of rising markets. Wage earners take the stairs, and the staircase itself keeps getting steeper. Inheritance widens that gap. One person begins with a deposit, education, and family support. Another begins with debt and no margin for error. Location matters just as much. A handful of superstar cities attract investment and talent, while smaller regions struggle to replace lost industries. So, young adults delay leaving home, buying property, marrying, or having children. These are not merely lifestyle preferences, They are economic adaptations. The middle class, then, has not simply vanished. What is disappearing is the package of security once attached to an ordinary income. Home ownership, predictable work, healthcare, retirement, leisure, and upward mobility still exist. They are simply bundled together for fewer people. Rebuilding that package means treating housing, wages, healthcare, education, childcare, and worker power as connected parts of the same system. It also means recognizing that markets alone did not create the old middle class. Public investment and collective bargaining helped build it. The future could become an hourglass, with wealth at one end and insecurity at the other, or a society with a broad center again. The middle class did not disappear because ordinary people stopped working. It disappeared because ordinary work stopped guaranteeing an ordinary life.